August 27th, Saturday, 1893. I had somehow dozed off in the night and woke to Charlotte sitting at the end of the bed, staring off at a haze in the early morning. She looked back at me and tried to shoot me a light-hearted smile. I stirred from my spot and asked, "Are you all right?" She simply shook her head and said,
"I'm about to get up for the day. You should rest for as much as you can. However, you should probably find Hope or even Tyrell sooner rather than later. Tyrell is our butler and the man who brought you here. One of them should probably have instructions for you as to the rest of your day."
The beautiful woman sat up and glided to the other room, and I couldn't help but feel so disheartened. I grabbed a hold of the clothes from the night before and loosely put them back on as I began to head downstairs with my trembling legs. What if I ran into that beast again? I was suddenly startled back into stiffness as I heard Hope's voice squeak.
"Lisette, you're all right?"
I turned towards the direction of her voice to see the mousy woman staring at me, wide-eyed and mouth agape. I let out a breath of relief and answered, "Well, in a matter of speaking."
"I am so sorry that I had to leave you with that horrid fiend."
"Someone left you with him too, didn't they? Just like you had to do with me." Her eyes directed themselves to the floor. "I don't understand, though. You look so different from myself and Charlotte."
"You've met Charlotte?"
Before I could answer, the man who I had known to be Terrell interjected as he turned the corner and said,
"You two, what are you doing standing around and gossiping? And why are you still in those clothes?"
He turned towards my companion.
"Take her to your quarters immediately and get her dressed in a uniform. The Count is already in a foul mood. Do not make it worse."
Of course. My apologies, sir."
Hope curtsied and grabbed a hold of my hand, the same she had the previous night.
"If you would please follow me again, ma'am."
She caught herself.
"Lisette."
I nodded my head and let her lead me through the house and to a room under the stairs.
"These are our sleep quarters."
Hope began again. She opened the door and it was clearly a room meant for the servants of the house. There were 3 beds that had been made and one of them had a uniform placed across it.
"The other maid and I sleep in those 2 beds, and that bed over there with the uniform was chosen for you. However, feel free to pick any bed you like. I tend to share a bed with our fellow colleague."
I gave her a slightly confused look and asked, "So there's another one of us?" I shook my head. "Wait, am I to be a maid as well?"
"So would seem the case. You are to always be wearing your uniform around the master, unless performing. In fact, it would be best that you get yourself dressed right now."
I looked at the gown that was on what was supposed to be my bed. The skirt was brown and the blouse was green with beige stripes. I looked back at Hope and how her uniform was mostly pale yellow with an ivory lace. "The uniform looks so different from yours. Wouldn't we all be expected to dress the same?"
He picks them out all specifically for us, to show off our features and charms.
He? Tyrell the butler?
No, the man from last night, the Count, our master. Now, get dressed.
I grumbled and did what she said, though I was not at all happy about it. Once I was done, I looked into a nearby mirror and actually felt that the uniform was a good fit on me. Much better than that outfit from last night. Suddenly, the most surprising thing had happened. Bernice walked right into the room. I couldn't help myself as I squealed, "Oh my goodness, Bernice, is that really you?" My dear old friend shot me a bewildered look and responded,
"Lisette?
She ran up to me and picked me up for a big hug.
Whilst I am so disheartened that you have wound up here, I am so glad to see you again."
Hope looked over at the 2 of us with a small smile and finally said,
You 2 met from the organization, didn't you?
"Yes, she came a few years after I did. I never once considered the thought that we should reunite you. You didn't seem to fit the criteria."
I thought the very same. But I also felt as though I figured it out.
"Yes, I cannot believe it did not dawn on me that the new girl you were talking about would be Lisette. But age and description match up, so I feel a bit slow."
I rejoined the conversation. "Whatever do you mean, the right criteria?"
"Besides your sex and musical skills, there really is nothing you have in common with Opal myself."
"I don't see how you 2 have much in common either. She's like white cake and you chocolate. Your personalities are very different as far as I can tell."
"Yes, we are around the same maturity. Hope has told me you were much younger than all the other girls."
Hope added,
You are also the first I've heard of being asked to perform on the same night of being brought here. We were all given at the very least a week before our debut.
I shook my head in confusion as I dared to ask, "And you think you know why?"
Only a hunch, but you bear an uncanny resemblance to the mistress of the house.
The mistress, do you mean Charlotte? Hope nodded her head. She's not like us then? Hope shook her head this time. I guess it would explain why she had her own room, and why she felt that her own was safe. What is she to him?
Him as in our master?
Don't call him such an empowered word, but yes, the Count, or whatever you wish to call him.
As far as I understand, she's his daughter.
That monster is a parent to that lovely Pearl?
Maybe.
Bernice stated.
Lisette resembles Miss Charlotte's mother. I believe she must have been of French descent as well.
True, but there is the matter of Lisette's age.
Well, that wouldn't make sense because even Miss Charlotte is much older than Lisette. Liz, you're 17? 16?
I answered. I just turned 16 this February.
And she's 24. They're about 8 years apart.
That doesn't change the fact that he knew his own daughter when she was as young as Lisette.
That is fair.
Disturbing, I began, is what it is. I don't even fully know what he even does.
Now that you mention it, you don't look like you even have a scratch.
Miss Charlotte saved me.
She did?
She hid me in her room before he could even touch me. What was he going to do to me? Hope responded.
Well, as I told you yesterday, we never know what's going to happen for sure. We never should have expectations.
Fine. Then what has he done? The young blonde held herself uncomfortably as Bernice gave her a very pensive and painful look. I felt as though I overstepped boundaries and tried to trespass into a personal space.
He does not always do things alone. Sometimes there's a party of men, each with their own taste. They don't have the biggest imaginations. That seems to be his specialty. He is the ringleader and the supplier, and we are the entertainment and the entree.
But he was alone. You've hardly mentioned what he does or even what they do.
Those times happen too. He sometimes can do more harm on his own than his group.
Is it violent? Is it perverse? I don't mean to violate you further, but I need to know. Bernice had her arms wrapped around Hope as she answered.
He's beaten us black and blue in the past. Just last month, the two of us woke up in our own blood and torn up rags. The guests will help with this too. They violated the two of us on multiple occasions. But it doesn't just end with physical torture. They aim for the mind too. The bloody fucks have such ill appetites.
So he might rape me?
He won't, but that doesn't mean the others won't give it a try. However, I think rape is the least of your problems.
How can rape be the least of anyone's problems?
Being able to say rape is the least of your problems is a start.
It's supposed to be a fate worse than death, not a fate worse than rape. Speaking of, you mentioned other girls before us, and so did Miss Charlotte. Does that mean he might try and kill me? Before Bernice started up again, Hope answered.
From what I've gathered, the deaths are usually accidental. It was not the end goal, but it is what happened. They get carried away.
Get carried away? Until the point of murdering someone? More than once? You'd think they learn by now, and thus I think that sounds completely absurd and like hogwash.
It is more that they do not care. We are nothing more than dolls or toys to them. They've even gone as far as to consider us playthings.
I am no one's plaything, and I do not intend to stay to become one.
By all means.
Bernice began.
Please show me where the unlocked and unguarded door is. I never thought to walk through it myself.
Hope, you were outside yesterday to greet me, weren't you? Pensively, Hope answered.
Only for a moment and with supervision. And even if I wasn't watched, I would have been warned of the hounds that would hunt me should I flee. I saw it in action myself once.
She started to get choked up.
I don't want to see that happen again.
Then we take out the Count. We get something to bludgeon him with, stab him, something. Bernice huffed as she said.
Lisette, if you ever manage to get the drop on that cunning bastard, you have my congratulations. It feels as though he is aware of what's happening in this place almost at all times. He even knew about Hope and me being sweethearts, despite keeping our distance from the public eye.
Hope continued.
He has a way of getting into people's minds. It is like he knows how to break humans down. I do not think he is human. I have seen things that I cannot explain.
Besides, even if we were somehow able to turn against him with force, we also have to worry about terror and the law. We need to figure out something more discreet.
There's also the mistress.
I grew silent. How foolish it was of me to speak as though these weren't things they had already thought of. I mumbled out an apology. I was frightened, I was confused, I felt alone. Both the ladies in front of me immediately ran to my side and held me close in such a loving manner. I could see them as being my big sisters or even my mothers. Who needs a father when you could have these two beautiful women as your parents? I certainly don't need a father who gave up on me and sold me off to human trafficking. After I calmed down, Bernice and Hope informed me of our chores and other basic rules and regulations of the estate. They sent me on my way and told me not to hesitate should I need anything from them. Near the evening time, I stumbled upon a door that was warned to be wary of. Apparently, it was one of the places the Count would frequent when he was home. But all that was on my mind was how there might be some way that I could get the drop on him, catch him unaware. I reached out my hand towards the knob, but was halted when I heard a voice call out.
Lisette!
I turned to see Miss Charlotte standing there and marching towards me.
Do not go into that room. Trust me.
She was in arm's reach and placed her palms on my cheeks, almost to examine me for injuries.
It's the Count's study. Do not disturb him if you do not wish to anger him further. He has been in a terrible temper, and I believe that I am technically the one to blame given my interference last night.
Is it true? I began to ask. Is he really your father? She stared at me in a pensive silence for a moment.
Yes, I'm his daughter and youngest child.
Are you sure he did not kidnap you at birth or something? You are nothing like him in looks or personality, she chuckled.
Given my older siblings and my resemblance to my mare, I'm quite certain of our relation. Not to mention I have his eye.
Miss Charlotte suddenly had a serious expression creep onto her face.
However, you shouldn't speak too highly of me in such ways. I am much more like that man than you would know.
Hogwash.
Come with me, it's late.
Where are we going?
Back to my quarters, if you would like. I don't feel safe letting you out of my sights for the night just yet.
I gratefully let her take me back to her room, holding her hand the entire way. Miss Charlotte began to undress, and I watched in near awe over how gorgeous she truly was.
Feel free to get comfortable too,
she said to me.
though I understand why that would be hard to do in this manner.
She started to put on her nightwear, and I came over to help her. I was the maid here, after all, and that's what maids are supposed to do for their aristocrats. I think if it was to someone as fair and noble as Miss Charlotte, I wouldn't mind a life of servitude and submission. I might quite enjoy it. I responded, if it was around you, I think it would be much easier for me to be comfortable.
I still have no idea if he'll search for you.
She led me to the bed and we both sat down.
Lisette, if he comes into my room tonight, do not worry about me. Think only of yourself. I'll try to divert his attention to me.
I was nearly taken aback. Shouldn't we stick together, miss? She simply shook her head.
Please, don't worry for me. Promise me that you'll put yourself first.
We've only just met, but you're showing so much kindness to me. Thank you so much, Miss Charlotte. She patted the hair on my head and pulled me in for a kiss on the forehead. She held me close and whispered something about going to sleep, but I was already feeling halfway there. Exhaustion and stress was getting the best of me, and the comfort and tenderness I was feeling in this lavishing woman's arms was certainly helping me along my way.